This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's SmackDown time again. This is one that you folks requested. We have the Lenovo Yoga 900, the new kid on the block. Here we have the HP Spectre X360. It came out a year ago, but it's been refreshed to Skylake Intel 6th generation CPUs inside. Not a wild difference between the two generations, honestly, but anyway. The Spectre X360 was one of the top laptops for the year, and it's still a very good laptop. The Yoga 900 shows a great deal of improvement after the Yoga 3 Pro was kind of a disappointment because the CPUs weren't so pro. Lenovo's done a better job with this one. They're both high-end offerings from the manufacturer for consumer line products that they offer. Spectre is at the top of the line for HP products, and this is the high-end Yoga model that Lenovo offers. Priced pretty similarly for what you get inside, similar configurations. So how do you decide? We're going to find out now. So here we have two really nice 13.3-inch Ultrabooks, both available with Intel Skylake 6th generation CPUs. Also with the Spectre, because actually this model, as I mentioned, came out first a year ago. It's also available with 5th generation Broadwell CPUs. If you find that for significant cost savings, nothing wrong with getting it. There's just not a huge performance jump or battery life jump between Broadwell and Skylake in these 15-watt Ultrabook U-Series CPU models. That out of the way, the first thing that's going to set them apart is the pen. Now the pen is optional. HP charges extra for this pen, around $40 or so. But if you want to do note-taking, since these can both go into tablet mode, and you want a precise digital pen, this has a Synaptics Active Digitizer in it. All you got to do is buy that pen, and you've got pen input precise, no capacitive stylus, you know, without palm rejection, all that sort of thing. Real digital pen. The Yoga 900, no pen option. Lenovo does make some ThinkPad models that have pens, but this is not one of them, not the Yoga 900. So if you're enamored with the idea of note-taking or artwork, right away, you don't even have to watch the rest of the review. It's going to be the Spectre X360 for you. Take the pen out of the equation now for those of you who care less. These are both 360-degree convertibles with the Yoga style hinge because Lenovo came up with that first. What that means is you can take it and do that. You can put it in tint mode. You can use it in presentation mode. You can flatten it and use it as a tablet. The same thing is true of the HP. Keyboard will be facing out at the bottom and trackpad, but they're deactivated when they're taken out of laptop position, so it doesn't matter if you touch them. And the Spectre, instead of having the fancy watch band hinge, has these two nice beefy chrome hinges right here, but same principle applies so far as what it does. You've got automatic screen rotation. Windows 10 will allow you to pick whether it goes into the Metro Live Tile mode automatically or it stays in desktop mode. That's going to work the same. These are both full Windows 10 laptops. They're available with Core i5 and Core i7 CPUs. Most models have 8 gigs of RAM. They both have SSD drives using mSATA interface, and you can get them with 128, 256, 512 gigs. We're looking at the mid-range models, probably the model that most people want, and it sells for around $1119 to $1199. That gives you 8 gigs of RAM, a 256 gig SSD, and a Core i5 CPU. Actually, our HP happens to have a Core i7. That one you can get for around $1,200. The Core i5 is around $1,120. The Yoga is a little bit cheaper if you get it at Best Buy. It's around $11.99 for the Core i5 configuration. Again, Best Buy has a deal with Lenovo. They're selling them a little bit cheaper. Performance on these, very similar. There's really not much of a difference, so not worth picking one over the other. Both use integrated graphics, which is pretty typical for thin and light convertible Ultrabooks. Not too many have dedicated graphics. Surface Book would be one, but that's quite a bit more expensive than even these are. And Lenovo does make the ThinkPad Yoga 14, which has kind of lower end but dedicated graphics if you really must have that. The Yoga has the new watch band hinge that Lenovo introduced last year, and it's pretty attractive and it's pretty neat. It's eye-catching. Now, some of you may fall in love with that and say that you love it. It's got a rubbery kind of texturized coating on it that feels very nice, and it doesn't show fingerprints very much either. Nice high contrast black and white keyboard there. Both of these have backlit keyboards, by the way. The little rubbery edges help a little bit with stability in tent mode, just a little bit. Now, the HP's claim to fame is the gorgeous design and build quality. I mean, this is something right up there with MacBook Pros in terms of really good looks. You've got the unibody aluminum construction with these polished metal sides going on here, clean angles, the interesting dual kind of curvy stuff here. Costs more to make curvy metal, so that's a little bit of a premium option there. sturdy, rigid. It looks more high class than the Yoga. The Yoga is available in a couple of different colors, silver, gold, grayish color. None of them look super classy. It does have aluminum panels on it, the Yoga, but doesn't have the same unibody kind of gorgeous look that the Spectre has. But no fancy watch band hinge either, if that matters to you. Now, the classier unibody build comes at a weight price. Our HP weighs a bit more. It's about 3¼ pounds, which isn't terrible, especially considering that these rotating 2-in-1 kind of designs are often heavier because they have to build in this beefy hinge and all that sort of thing. But the Yoga weighs only 2.8 pounds, so 2.8 versus about 3¼ so a bit lighter. You'll notice the difference if you pick them up. It's not night and day, but every bit counts. And for our Yoga, you can see the finish here. It's metal, but it almost looks like painted on plastic. I don't know, it's not the most aesthetically awesome thing. But closed, the machine does look pretty darn cool and pretty nice, especially because it is so thin and modern looking. The modernness extends to the ports. This is one of the new machines that has adopted USB-C, which is a universal, you can't put in an upside down kind of connector that can put out a lot more data. It can be used for displays, for Ethernet, for all sorts of things. In fact, if you get one of the little docking station kind of devices, you can plug in Ethernet and a display and a USB port all in one little adapter. That's kind of a neat thing. So it's versatile, but in the short term, it's hard to find USB-C to whatever it is you need adapters. And, well, Lenovo has said bye-bye HDMI, bye-bye DisplayPort. So in the short term, you might feel a little bit uh-oh if you need to plug in those kinds of displays right there. So we have our usual USB 3.0 ports. We have SD card slot there as well. Lenovo's hybrid charging port on the other side also can be a USB port. And there's another USB port. HP is still more traditional and easier to work with in terms of just dropping it into your existing setup as a result. You got your USB 3.0 port, you got your SD card slot on this side. We have both mini DisplayPort and HDMI. I like it when they have both because you never know if you want to plug in a TV or a projector that's HDMI, or if you have a nice desktop monitor that's perhaps higher resolution, you're probably going to want the DisplayPort. 2 more USB 3.0 ports right there. So, do you want forward looking or do you want easy right now to plug into your stuff? That'll be your decision between the Yoga and the HP. So how about keyboards and trackpads other than color? Because with the HP you have 2 options. This is your regular silver, very pretty Spectre X360, but they also offer the new, I think they call it ash silver with copper trim. Now they're more talking about the copper trim as setting it apart. That one has a darker interior, about $100 more, and it has more contrast on the keyboard. This one here has kind of like dark gray on light silver keys, and it has backlighting, and it's easy to see in a dark room, but if you're in that kind of in-between dimmish lighting, the backlighting can actually make it worse, which is kind of odd. So you turn it off, you can see the keys better. So otherwise, a fine keyboard. It's very tactile. It might not have like sculpted smile-shaped keys or anything fancy like that, but it's a very pleasant keyboard to use. The Yoga, obviously, very high contrast. In any light setting, this is pretty easy to see. Also backlit. One and only color. Also a likable keyboard, not up there with the ThinkPads for key travel. It's not bad. It's not one of my favorite keyboards, but it's certainly very usable. They're pretty darn close. I might give a little edge to preferring the HP, but you know, that's really going to be, it's up to personal preference at this point because they're pretty darn close. Trackpads, normal looking trackpad here. Not as good as the new Microsoft Surface Pro and Surface Book or the Dell XPS trackpads in terms of just feeling very responsive and very accurate. But it's not a bad trackpad at all. It's pretty decent. Now, HP still goes with that kind of odd, oversized trackpad, which only they understand the logic behind thinking somebody needs something that big. It's not like you're going to go ice skating or something on top of it with your fingers, are you? Anyway, other than the fact some people may find it annoying, it does have, you know, if it senses you're pressing a key, it will temporarily disable the trackpad to try to avoid you accidentally hitting this while you're using the keyboard. But it's a very good trackpad other than it's kind of oddly large. It's responsive and quite decent for a Windows trackpad. Not up there with my absolute favorites, but very usable, never gets me feeling cranky. So So how about displays? Well, this is a kind of a three-way discussion because there's two different display options available on the HP. We have the 1920 by 1080 display, which is a perfectly reasonable resolution for a 13.3-inch laptop. Touchscreen, these are both touchscreens. These are both glossy no matter what you go with. I think you can see right here which one has the better color saturation and contrast. That's because the Lenovo, though it has the highest resolution displays, it's 3200 by 1800. It's the QHD plus. It's the higher resolution display, but contrast and black levels are not very good on it, mostly because the black levels are not good. The blacks are kind of more like dark gray, so you don't get as much punch from your colors. Similar brightness levels, over 300 nits for both of these. Both of these have 99% of sRGB in terms of color gamut, so you're getting higher resolution here, but obviously you're not getting the high contrast. So with HP, there's a second option. For about $100 more, you can get a QHD 2560 by 1440 resolution display for those of you who want higher DPI. Obviously, we don't have that one here. It's not quite as bright. Other than that, it is a very pretty display as well with pleasing colors and contrast. Me personally, I would go for the HP display. Not that the Lenovo's is terrible, but I really like that punch and that contrast that you get from a more normal contrast and black level standpoint. More normal for higher end machines. Both of these being $1,000 and up, you expect a certain level of, image quality. Now, how about battery life? You would think with the same CPUs and and all that stuff inside and the same integrated graphics that you would have similar battery life. Well, not so much. And in part that's because the Yoga 900 is only available with that high resolution display, and high resolution displays do use more power. Our 1080p version of the Spectre X360 is a real Energizer bunny. That thing is just hard to kill. I easily get 9 hours of use out of it. That's with normal productivity work. I'm not playing games or something like that. The Yoga is more like 7 hours. Now, if you go with the QHD Spectre, the battery life will be shorter on that. We don't have it in for testing, so anecdotally from what, well, folks just like you watching this have written and told me about for your experiences, seems like you get about an hour and a half less with the QHD display on the HP, which would put them closer. The HP would still be a bit ahead. In terms of heat and fan noise, they're about the same. You'll hear the fan on each of these occasionally. If it's working hard, if it's doing Windows updates, it'll come on. If you're just typing in Word or looking at a website or even streaming Netflix, you won't hear it. Now, the HP, because it is a metal design, more unibody metal designs tend to transfer more heat. If you get something, particularly the Core i7, not that the Core i5 and Core i7 are actually that different architecturally, but you'll notice heat here, you'll feel it. If you're playing games, it'll get pretty toasty here. It's not going to, burn you under normal use. It's just going to be noticeably warm, not hot. If you're gaming, it'll be hot. Yoga keeps it cool in terms of surface temperatures better. So if you want to use it on your lap and that's a concern, Yoga wins that point. Lastly, speakers. Obviously, both of these have down-firing speakers, stereo speakers, one on each side. The Intel 5th generation Broadwell version of the HP didn't have Bang & Olufsen speakers. That was added for the 6th generation, and the Bang & Olufsen speakers are actually a little bit quieter. Now, HP in general seems to believe that speakers shouldn't be loud things. The headphone audio is just fine in terms of levels, but speakers aren't too loud. They're pretty decent, actually, on the 5th generation. A little on the quiet side for the latest generation Skylake. The Yoga has pretty good volume. Not wildly rich and full, but it's decent enough, and in terms of volume, it's louder than the 6th generation, but not really louder than the 5th generation HP, if you can keep track of all that. So there you have it, the Lenovo Yoga 900 and the HP Spectre X360. It is not a very easy choice. I'll grant you that after watching our SmackDown. I think you know that. Both of these are pretty thin and light. They're both 360-degree convertibles. They're both available with super high resolution displays if you want. The HP has regular 1920 by 1080 in case you don't want that extra high resolution inside. It also offers the digital pen. It has the unibody metal construction that's classier, but the Yoga fights back with having the highest resolution display offering and being the lightest of the two. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch our video reviews of each of these products, read our written reviews, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.